Welcome to Kicks and Minivans, the podcast for dads who love sneakers. I'm your host, KG. However you're watching and listening, man, we appreciate you joining us, hopping in. We got a great episode for you today. I am joined by my brother, Rashad Cunningham. We ain't gonna spend too much time in this because I want to jump right into the episode. It's a long one, but I promise you, if you ride with us through it, it is a fantastic episode. You will be blessed by the conversation. Like I said in the last episode, the top two things that we heard back that you guys wanted to hear us talk about was mental health and porn addiction. Last episode, we talked about shame and guilt because I think that shame is an underlying factor in those two struggles that men often have. But today and for the next couple episodes, man, we are diving into these topics, talking about the pornography issue today with my brother Rashad. So let's jump right in right now. Hey.
No, hey.
He gave me his amen.
He got me.
Got him. All right. This will be coming out like 2 weeks after the Eagles-Niners game. So we don't know what's going on.
So we'll know. Yeah, we'll know. We'll know though.
We'll know by the time this airs who won that game. But yeah, anyway, Rashad, welcome to Kicks and Minivans. Thanks for joining us.
What's good, man? What's good? Let's do this, man. It's a long time in the making, baby.
Been a long time coming, but we here now. Excited to have you on. Give us all a little snapshot of Rashad. Tell us about who you are, your family, what you do, all that.
Yeah, Rashad Cunningham, man. I'm just a child of God, honestly. Father to my daughter Genesis. I'm a husband to my wife Brittany. So I'm a family man, homebody. Just love this stuff, man. Love talking about the things that challenge us and love, finding ways to multiply information and experiences that I've been through. I'm a pastor in the Brownsburg area at a church called Church at Maine, and just navigate a whole bunch of different avenues that God's placed me in, man. So that's pretty much me. I'm not a big bio dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're always like, send me your bio. I'm like, I don't have one. You know what I'm saying? But
I hate
much
doing
me.
that.
I hate it.
I'm like, what do I say? What do I even say? Like, I hate doing this, Nah, that's dope though. All right, so Rashad is a sneakerhead, right? Not everyone that comes on is a sneakerhead, right?
Okay.
But you are like one of the people that like we text about sneakers and releases, and you've had some pickups this year. This man has hit on sneakers like 17 times this year.
Like crazy. It's been favored.
Like,
man.
this man
Favor's
texts me like every other week. Like every other week he's texting me like, yo, I hit on sneakers again. I'm like, man, I hate you. Shut up.
Yeah,
so,
man.
All right, tell us a couple of the things. Tell us a couple of the things you hit on sneakers this year, and then tell us like some of your favorite pairs you got.
Oh yeah. You said bonus points if we can flash them real quick, right? Yeah. I'm here, man. I'm here. So today specifically, I didn't bring these with me, but I hit on these the Laney 14s, which got that just a little pop of the yellow. So when I hit on those, man, it kind of had dual responsibility. It helps with my Michigan gear, but it helps with my Colts gear too. Because if you cover that yellow, then you just got the Colts blue with the black and the white. So that was an important cop for me, the Laney 14s.
Yeah. And for those that are listening and not watching, Rashad is a diehard Michigan fan, decked out.
Yes.
In his Michigan gear today, because today, the day we're recording this, is the Michigan-Iowa game.
Go blue.
And we loved watching them kick the crap out of Ohio State last week.
Amen.
Anyways, continue on.
So, man, I got a couple pair with me here. The ones I was surprised how much I fell in love with them, with these 8s, man, these playoff 8s. I actually wasn't even checking for them like that, and I never owned any 8s, and so I copped the 8s, man. They outside of those 3s, they're the most comfortable shoes I got. Period, man. The 8s are so comfortable. I didn't know anything about them. I put them on, this little sock sleeve in here, man. They are so comfortable, bro. They only rivaled by the 3s. And then obviously the ones I just got that ain't came out yet. Yeah, baby. Them Gratitude 11s, man. These things are beautiful. These things are beautiful, baby. They come out in a couple weeks. How many sneakers have you
gotten this year?
Look. They come out. By the time this drops, I think they will just be coming out, man. So these are
Bro.
These, I love these. I actually love these more than the OG
And you are the
Concords.
two-tone king, too.
I'm the, yeah. And
You're
that's
the
what I was
two-tone
gonna say.
king. You
My
love the
favorite
two-tones.
My favorite pair that's actually beat up. They beat up right now, so I need some new ones. But my Taxis, this is where it all started for me. Like the Taxi 12s is where it all started for me. So like those are my favorites. If I'm still trying to cop anything right now, man, I don't know. I think I pretty much done. I got what I wanted. There are a couple that might come on. I got what I wanted. I think I might be going after some other non-Jordan shoes. So like I want some the penny ones, you know, the Air Pennies, the first ones.
Okay.
And I would love to get the Barry Sanders that came out some years ago with the silver strap, the black and silver joints. I want to get those again.
I don't know if I know
like,
those ones.
Yeah, they beautiful. They beautiful, man. But I'm a shoe head, man. I love it. I love it. My wife gives me the grace to buy them.
Hey, yo, that DJ money. Hire this man. If you're in the indie area,
Hey,
hire this man as a DJ.
There
so
it
he
is,
can cop
man.
some new sneakers. Maybe he'll send some to a friend nearby or something. But now, this is the man that I got the royalty 12s. They're the only pair of 12s that I own. And this is the man that will clown me for the royalties. Even though they're almost exactly like the Taxis. Will clown me for the gold. I like the gold on them. I think it just adds a little something extra to it. No, stop it.
Stop it. And here's the thing. Here's the funniest part. Check it out. The gratitude joints. That's what people hate about it is the gold, right? They hate the gold because the Concords it's a black jump, man. But I actually on these I actually love the gold on that upper.
Now that gold's trash,
leather.
bro.
Hey,
that gold's trash.
I'm with it.
So, dude, you can't. I'm not a huge 11s fan because I'm not a huge two-tone dude.
Right.
But the bread 11s are like my grail.
Yeah.
The bread 11s are my ultimate grail.
Do you got a pair?
And so
you ain't got. Do you have a pair of them?
I do not with me. No, these are my these are my royalties in this box right here, actually. But no, I do have my wife was gracious to let me cop a pair of the bread 11s like 2 years ago. And so I think I got the 2019s.
Shout out to the wifey, man.
Yeah, dude.
Shout out to the wifey.
I do not wear them often. But I wear them just enough. You know, like they don't like deteriorate in the box or nothing like that.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, that's interesting about the 8s though, because I'm a huge 3s guy. Threes might be my favorite Jordan.
You remember you're the only reason I got the 3s. Do you remember that?
Really?
Yeah, this year you were the only reason I even went after those white cements. I'm not even a big 3 dude like that. And it was because of you I went after them.
That's right. Yeah.
And when I got them, I was like, man, these feel so funny, good.
They're so comfortable. Like, I will wear them. Like, we take the kids to the zoo or the museum or whatever, and we're on our feet all day. Like, I will gladly wear those because they're so comfortable. But yeah, it's so funny because the white cement, the reimagined 3s, those were on my list for a minute. And I was in a sneaker shop here locally looking at them, and I was like, yo, in hand, like, I don't need these. Like, I'm sitting there looking at them, and I'm like, I had like so many white-based 3s. And I'm like, these ain't that different that I need them.
Right.
But then I saw they had a pair in my wife's size, and she don't own any Jordans. She's got a pair of Dunks, a pair of Dames. She's got some cool sneaks, but she ain't ever owned a pair of Jordans before. They had them in my wife's size, and they basically, I had a pair of ones that I was trading in, the purple ones, and so it was pretty much like a clean swap that they gave me the 3s in exchange for the ones. And so got her first pair of Jordans was those
the white cement 3s, the reimagined boys. That's good.
Oh, she looked better in them than I do anyway. So, you know.
The wifey, man. Give it up for the wifey. Shout out to the wifeys, man.
Shout out to the wives that embrace us despite our sneaker habits. Hey. It's not a cheap hobby, but
at all.
It's cool.
At all.
No. We've had to take a back seat because we're putting our money elsewhere this year. So I haven't picked up many pairs this year, but yeah, hopefully in the near future. But anyways, man, let's jump in. So I shared this on the last episode, and I shared it with you when we were chopping it up about what we talk about today. But at the end of the first season of Kicks and Minivans, we kind of put it out there to the listeners and said like, hey, what are the topics you guys want to hear us talk about the most?
Yeah.
And by far the two that came back were mental health and porn addiction. So I'm like, cool, thanks y'all. Nice, easy, soft, fluffy topics, right? And we are going to be getting into these heavy for, about 5 or 6 straight episodes. But I wanted to get Rashad's take on some of this because of some of your story, your experiences, your career path, just the amount of people that you've sat with over the years. Really wanted to get your take on this. So I guess just starting out in general, like, hey, how often, like when you're meeting with men, when you're talking with guys about issues that they're facing and dealing with, like how often does the topic of mental health or porn addiction come up? Just in general.
Yeah, man.
Like I want to respect the privacy of the people that
definitely.
you meet with, but just
Definitely.
overall, like, hey, is this like something that as you're pastoring people and counseling people, like how often does this come up with specifically in men?
Man, porn addiction and mental health is like 80% of the conversations. Even when you look at other things that are going on with problems in their marriage, problems in their work life, problems in their insecurities, all like no matter where they go, a lot of it actually comes back to the foundation of a porn addiction or a mental health issue. And so it's about 80% of the conversations when I'm dealing with men specifically that I'm dealing with. And so yeah, it's huge, man. It's a huge battle. In us being men, a lot of men won't reach out for help. We try to fix it ourselves, what actually takes us into a deeper, darker addiction, man, or defeat, honestly, because we're trying to figure out, we're all fixers by nature. And so we're trying to fix it
right
on our own and don't know, we haven't been taught how to come alongside or reach out for help. And so, yeah, man, I deal with it often. I deal with it a lot. And then I obviously my testimony, my story, I come out of different addictions, including porn addiction and the different mental health issues that I've had to face myself, man. So yeah, it's a huge part of everything I do in terms of ministering and in terms of needing to be ministered to often. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I asked that, like, I'm surprised you say like 80%, but I'm also not surprised. I'm not surprised that that's 80% of the struggle.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little surprised that 80% are willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
I guess in a way.
And that's the key.
And I think that's the key so much. And I think, to your point of you saying like, we try to fix it ourselves. I think because underlying both of those things, there's this deep sense of shame tied to those things. And that shame just compounds upon itself. And we spent the whole last episode talking about shame. So if you haven't listened to the episode before this one, go tune into that. But, that shame is such an underlying thing where it's like, all right, guilt says I did something bad. Shame says I am something bad.
Right.
And so when we fall deeper into that mental health, the porn addiction, man, it compounds that shame and it just builds upon itself. And so you said, part of your story is coming out of various addictions, including porn addiction. So I guess like part of one of my first questions to you was going to be like, all right, let's label this thing. Is porn an addiction? And I think like for me, I always thought, because I've been addicted to it. Right. But like, according to scientists and doctors, like there's not a resolved like yes or no. Like there's a lot of debate in the medical field about this actually, which kind of surprised me. But from at least a spiritual lens, a practical lens, like where do you see that lining up as an addiction when you talk about things like gambling addiction, substance abuse, etc.?
Yeah. So for me, man, like you said, from a spiritual perspective, I understand everybody listening may not be, spiritual. I get that, understood. But I look at it like in terms of an idolatry. What am I trying to find fulfillment in? What am I using as a substitute to try to fill this void that's within me? Whatever that is, that's an addiction. That's a dependency per se, right? And so like with porn, for example, when I struggled with porn, I was using it to fulfill my insecurities. I was using it to fulfill my loneliness. I was using it to fulfill actually the shame that I was already feeling from being there. That's why I said it gets darker, it gets deeper. I'm by myself thinking I'm the only one struggling like this, and I'm actually trying to make myself feel better by watching it more, making it more normalized or whatnot. So like there's a lot of ways to define addictions, and I can't argue with the world's way of looking at that, but I know personally when I look at things, whether it be gambling, alcohol, drugs, porn, I look at what am I trying to fulfill the voids in my life with that's not, in my perspective, that's not Jesus, right? And so because of that, boom, whatever it is that I put on that throne in my life, that's an addiction. And we can be addicted to so many things. And so I start craving and needing it to fulfill something that it never will. And I tell myself, just one more time, or I'm in control of it, right? And before I know it, me, myself, I was watching porn 6, 7 times a day. It became like coffee. If you drink coffee so much, after a while, you actually need it to just function. You're like, I'm not even using it for the extra boost. I need it to function. But you can drink it so much. Right. I get headaches without it. But you can drink it so much that even at night, to get to a place to, I guess, like calm yourself or comfort yourself to go to sleep, you need coffee. It's weird how it works, but it becomes this functionary thing. And so like porn became that for me. I needed to get my day going. I needed it to settle down. I needed to take a nap. Like I watched porn nonstop all the time, addicted to it for various reasons that were symptoms. Like porn was the symptom of a deeper, darker thing that was going on within me, man. So I do believe porn is an addiction by far. Yeah, definitely.
And so part of the reason that I asked you that question at the start about when you meet with people and you said 80%, I think part of me asking that is just for everyone listening to know, like, you are not even you're not alone. You're not even in the minority.
Boom.
Like this, like, because I know from experience how much shame is tied to this. Because look, like I was a pastor struggling with this. And I think like you get to a point too where it's like, hey, you're engaged. You think getting married's gonna fix it, and like, oh, we gonna get married. We're gonna be having sex all the time, and it's like right. It don't fix it.
Right.
And look, you could be having sex with your wife every day,
and it's still
find yourself addicted to it.
That's right.
Because it's fulfilling. It's like there's something deeper in you that you're trying to fill with that.
Yep.
And so it's so much deeper. It's so much deeper than just a physical thing.
Right, exactly.
Right, it's not just this
way past
physical act of like, it's not even just about lust anymore. Like it's so much deeper than all of that. And obviously, like I think I know what you're gonna say, right? But I think there's like an awkward elephant in the room. Like porn has become so normalized, right, in society. It's like you watch like any TV show, and it's like, oh yeah, that's my porn stash over there. Every dude has like a porn stash in his room or something, and it's like it's just normal. And like guys in like sitcoms like feel no shame about having like a porn stash or DVD or like whatever it might be. And now it's like, and so like you have to ask this question of like, is porn bad?
Right. Yeah.
Like I think that's just like like an honest question like we have to ask. Like, is it bad? Like, is it actually harmful? Like obviously as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we view it as sexual sin, right?
But there's more to it than that, right?
But like I think you even look at like wives who are cool with their husbands watching it.
Right. Yeah.
Or husbands that get turned on when their wives watch it. Or couples that watch it together. Like and so it's like if you're looking at it like that, of like it ain't hurting nobody.
Right.
Like because my wife's cool with it, or we even do it together, and it like turns us on. Like so like what like is it bad in all cases then?
Yeah. And so personally, like even if I step out of my pastoral hat, like let me take the pastor hat off and just put on, we just fellas kicking it, right? Yes. Right. Yes, a million times. And that's the thing. I think this is why the conversations have to be had, because you need to speak to somebody who can give you the results of the porn addiction. Like, hey, I know what it seems like in the midst of it, when the wife's okay with it, when you're watching it together, when it's, the hall pass per se of whatever. But let me tell you the effects it's going to have on your marriage later. Let me tell you how it's going to impact your sex life later, right? Once again, there are all these spiritual things that happen. I want to put those to the side for a moment for whoever's listening, right? Because truth is truth, period. And so when you start, excuse me, when you start to think of how you make somebody an addict. So let's just go into the science of how do you create an addict of anything. If you go back to my days of drug dealing per se, right? You give them the most pure taste of a drug for the least amount, even if you could give it away for free, so that they have that first high, that first experience that blows their mind. And then every time they come back, or as they come back over time, you increase the price, but you lessen the product. And what ends up happening is they chase after that first high for the rest of their lives, sometimes trying to get that first experience. And you may give them a hit here and there and here and there, but you never give it to them fully, because now they're in your pocket per se, or they're addicted to trying to get back to that first feeling, that first euphoric feeling that was just a temporary feeling. With porn, even if the wife's okay with it, even if you watch it together, even if, I'm not hurting anybody, well, you start to create these experiences that can't be duplicated. You may simply see something of some position or some scene or whatever, and you want to go carry that high out in your personal life with your wife or with your spouse or whatever, and you'll never reach that high. So then you become bored with your wife, or not aroused with your wife anymore, or it's not enough, and you start seeking where you can find it. You end up in strip clubs, you end up with prostitution, you end up it multiplies into these other things because you're still searching that high. Or you spend more time in front of that computer because you're looking for a scene that will do what that first scene did to you, or that one experience did to you. And so you become an addict because you're trying to get back to that first fulfillment that was a false fulfillment, because it never actually fulfilled anything, and it was a temporary fulfillment that won't last. And so just on those reasons alone, it messes up your sex life with your spouse. It messes up your ability to be aroused by an actual human being. But then look on the flip side of it, bro. If you watch documentaries, which is one way to overcome the addiction, but if you watch some of these documentaries, what you'll find is that these women are coking themselves out just to be able to do some of these scenes. And some of them are being trafficked into these scenes. You are finding pleasure in some of the men and women's lowest points of life, where they felt they had no other option, and so they turned to this. And you are finding pleasure in these moments, right? And you'll never see it because that's not what it says on the camera. But when you get underneath what's happening on the camera, these people, this is somebody's daughter, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is somebody's son. And so there's another deeper thing. And then for those who are watching, who are heterosexuals or whatever, right? Here's a deep one, bro. I myself, I'm a heterosexual male who is into, heterosexual relationships or whatnot. And so when I realized that I've never watched a scene of a female with a female that actually aroused me, it has to include a male. I start realizing that in all my heterosexualness, I'm actually needing to see a male with a female to actually be aroused, which taps into a whole nother area that we don't see coming, right? And so bro, there are so many dangers to
so
porn.
many layers to it.
Layers that you don't see because I'm not hurting anybody. And this doesn't impact anybody. This doesn't affect anybody until you're with your wife one night and you can't finish because you are so stimulated by what you see in these specific scenes that are not natural, nor are they actually realistic. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. And it goes both ways. It's not just men. You know what I'm saying? There are women
right.
that are looking for men to be something that men can't be. It's just It's creating this unrealistic expectation, bro. And it's dangerous. It will hinder every area of life for you as life goes forward. And it starts with that one little crack, like the one little crack in the windshield over time cracks the entire windshield, bro. Yeah.
That first, I love the way you put the analogy with chasing that first high.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think for so many of us, I feel like every time I hear someone share their story about porn addiction, like it started in their childhood or teen years, right? And it's like, how many stories of it is like, I found my dad's magazines,
Right.
you know, or
Yep.
whatever. Like for me, it was like, it was kids in my school. And I went to a Christian school, mind you, right? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but it was kids in my school that showed me stuff, right? And so, but so many of the stories I hear from people, like I almost never hear of like someone discovering it at like 22.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
They're
Yeah.
always like 11, 12 years old, right? And so, what do you, how come this is something that, like, if you think about, like, all right, a 30-year-old dude that discovered porn when he was 12 and has been watching it since, like, he's been watching it over half his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you begin to see your life outside of that?
Yeah.
Because, like I got to a point where for as long as I could remember, like, I had seasons of freedom, but, like, I got to a point where for as long as I could remember, like, I was addicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I started watching it at, like, 13 years old or whatever, you know?
Right. Right.
And
right.
so how do you begin, when you've spent over half of your life or more in this thing, like, how do you begin to see yourself outside of that?
You see, and bro, that's such a good question because that's the heart of it, right? Like you got to get to the root. To me, one of the issues we have with our battle against porn addiction is that we keep trying to change people's behavior. We try to modify behaviors, right? So we're like, hey, you're watching this, stop watching it. That's your fix. And it's like, that's not the fix. That's just modifying the behavior. And as soon as the brother that helps me temporarily stop watching it fails me or doesn't pick up the phone when I need him to pick up the phone, I'm going to go back to doing what I believe because I only modified my behavior for you, right? And so when I deal with porn addiction or any type of addiction, I want to get down to the root of what do you believe about porn? That's the first question. Like, and that's why I love what you asked when you said, is porn actually wrong? Until somebody believes that it's wrong, I don't care how often they try to change their behavior for their wife or change their behavior for ministry or change their behavior for insert whatever. Once that thing that you changed it for fails you, you're going to go back to doing what you believe. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I always say, let's get to the root of what you believe about porn before we ever deal with the behavior of not watching it. Until it's actually a wrong thing to you, until you dislike it. Because think about this. Name a food, man, Kevin, name a food you don't like. Name a food you don't like.
Squash.
Squash. I hate squash, bro.
Random.
So watch this. I don't care how you season it, how you cook it, what you put on the side of it. I'm not eating squash because I don't believe in eating squash. Period, right? I believe squash is nasty. So my behavior is squash is nasty. Now watch this. When I think of something, I don't want to be too stereotypical. I'm about to be like fried chicken. When I think of a steak, right? When I think of a steak.
You can say it. I might not say it.
I get it. Right. So a nice juicy steak. My doctor will be like, Rashad, your blood pressure is a little high. You need to pull back from the red meat and not eat the steak. If I don't believe, right. If I don't believe my blood pressure is high, or if I don't believe this steak will kill me, when the doctor's not in the room, or when I ain't thinking about the doctor, I'm gonna go back to doing what I believe. But when he shows me, man, your blood pressure, you might die on that next piece of steak. Once I believe that, then my behavior changes whether the doctor's in the room or not. You see what I'm saying? We do these support groups, and in these support groups, we challenge people's behavior and we try to modify their behavior when we're with them. I'm all in on the accountability tools and all of that. But what happens when you can't pick up the phone? What happens when the Covenant Eyes tool doesn't work because there was a glitch in the system or whatever? Am I going to do what I believe, or am I going to do what I'm just trying to behave for those who are holding me accountable? So I think that's why that first question you asked, is it actually wrong, is the most serious question. And even you bringing up how the majority of people we meet find it when they're 13, 14, 12, 11. They find their dad's stash or the other dad of somebody else.
Yep.
So now when you're asking that question, am I hurting anybody? Yes. Because think about the kid whose mind wasn't ready at 10 years old for any of this, who came across your stash and then takes it to school and influences the other kids. Like, and all of that's because of your addiction, right? We don't see, and so now because I came across dad's stash, not only am I going to school and spreading this to the other fellas, but now I'm viewing young females in a way, and now before you know it, I'm a pedophile or a rapist or this. Not saying they all go to those extremes, but a lot of those extremes are birthed from, I just saw how in my dad's porn stash, there was this role-playing scene of somebody doing this. And it's glorified in that scene, and I'm just trying to imitate what I see. And so now this is how I view women. They're just a commodity. They're just an object. They're just a this. And I'm teaching other men to view it like that. And out of the hundreds of boys that I've influenced because of what my dad watches, one of them goes off the deep end, and now this is what he's about. And as he grows up with his insecurities and his problems, he can't get the hot chicks from the movie he's watching and he's addicted to now. So he goes after the younger ones when his influence of being some older male has more to do than with his looks. And now we're mad at the child molester, not realizing the child was molested through porn to begin with. And he became a child molester. The monster became a monster because we didn't think it was a monster thing to be addicted to porn.
And you might listen to that and be like, he's exaggerating. Like, you're not.
I'm not. I'm the guy. Like, let's just keep it real, right? I'm the guy. Once again, not to go overboard preachy, but pre-Christ, this is who I am. This is how I view women. This is how I see, like, I'm the 20-year-old that's like, man, if I can't get this chick, then let me go after one that's 17. You know what I mean? Why? Because I'm just trying to fulfill my porn dreams. There's things that they're doing that others won't do. So I'm just trying to find the one that's weak enough and admires me enough to let me live out my porn dreams. Why? Because there's a high about watching that I'm trying to fulfill. And then here's the worst part about it. And then even when I get to live out some of these experiences and these scenes, I realize I'm not fulfilled. I'm still not fulfilled. Because for whatever was in that moment of watching it in that scene, it wasn't the same. And that's what we miss, is that these people that are doing the porn, and I give, they have some blame in all of this, of course, as well. But if you go watch these documentaries, man, they'll tell you, I was so coked out in that scene. I had to be coked out because of how much it hurt. And so now I'm trying to carry out a scene that looks pleasurable, but actually is not pleasurable at all. And I'm trying to carry it out with a regular human being. And they're like, that hurts. And I'm like, why does it hurt? And now you're messing up my fantasy. You're messing up my pleasure. You're messing up my fulfillment. And so now I'm not satisfied with you. I need to move on to another one. And now watch. And now I watched the documentary, and now I'm like, well, maybe we need to do drugs with this. Maybe we need to do ecstasy or alcohol or insert drug, so that we can experience what they're experiencing in the movie, since that's what they use. And now I'm a drug addict as well. Now I'm an alcoholic as well. You see, and bro, it's so jacked up, and it's so sneaky because we've normalized it. We got this demonic saying, boys will be boys. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Boys will be boys, and, I know he said this about the chick, but that's just locker room talk. You know what I mean? Like, what does that even mean, bro? And quickly, it's it used to be a male dominant thing. I'm telling you, asked me about the men I meet with. The percentage is almost equal for women. Believe it or not, the percentage is almost equal for women because it's the same source of a sickness, right? I'm trying to fulfill a void through this avenue called porn. And that void usually has something to do with the brokenness of our mental health. Flat out. It's a brokenness inside of us that we're dealing with, and so instead of getting the help we need, we're self-medicating. It's a self-diagnosis and a self-prescription of, you know what, I can make the pain go away, that I'm not desirable to the person I want to desire me. So I can make the pain go away by feeling desirable by watching porn and desiring myself or whatever. It's so much there, bro, that you can't do it in no one podcast, I'll tell you that.
No. So let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
How often, because I think so much of what you're talking about is just begging this question to be asked, is how often is porn the problem versus a symptom of the problem?
Yeah, I think porn, I'd say majority of the time is not, it's the manifestation of what's actually going on, right? So like, hey, I got a cough and a sneeze right now. That's the symptom. There's a bacterial infection inside of me that makes me cough and sneeze, right? It's the same thing with porn. Hey, I'm addicted to watching porn because something inside of me is wrong. And that's why I said we have to get back to the root. If porn's not wrong to you, I'm not worried about your porn watching. That's not the first thing I'm worried about. I want to know why it's not wrong to you. When you process it in your mind, why is it not wrong? I'm not going to condemn you. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to guilt you. I'm not going to tell you. No, I'm going to say, what about porn in your mind is not wrong? Why do you feel that way? What's your background? What have you learned over the years? What have you seen over the years? Why isn't it wrong? And when we answer those questions, that's when we get to the root of, you know what I'm saying? Like even that one answer you gave, I'm not hurting anybody. We got to go into that. Oh, okay, so you don't feel you're hurting anybody. Well, let's go look at facts and find out if that's true. And all I ask is, if we find that you are hurting somebody, will that change what you believe about not hurting? I don't even need you to stop watching it yet. I just need you to acknowledge that you believe you're hurting somebody, and many people, and perhaps even yourself, when you watch porn. Because until we deal with that, who cares about the conviction that people bring and say, oh, you're a bad this, you're a bad that? People can get over that real quick and say, well, you're bad at this and you're bad at that. So I need to find out why. I need to find out why don't you believe it's bad? Why don't you believe it's wrong? And when we deal with that, your behavior will follow what you believe.
So you alluded to this, but like, what is the impact that it's having in our families today? Excuse me. Like, I think, when you look at it, and not just the impact it's having in our marriages, but also upon our kids, even if they're little or maybe they're teens. But, and also, like, is it, because you said, like, the amount, and that's, the statistics are showing that the amount of women addicted is getting closer and closer, percentage-wise, to the number of men, right? It used to just be this male-heavy thing, and it's balancing out between the genders so much. But is it more impactful or destructive on a family if it's the dad/husband addicted to it versus the mom/wife addicted to it?
The way I look at a home, personally, I would say yes, because of the role of a husband, father in the home. But overall, it's the same problem. So I could see why somebody would argue, oh, it's equally destructive. It's all destructive, right? But I think I see, the husbands as, the natural leaders of the home. So, they should be. And so if I take the head down, the family falls. In my own experience, my daughter specifically, I remember her between the ages of 1 and 5 knocking at my office door when I used to work from home for a company, and I'm so busy wanting to watch porn. My daughter's like, Daddy, lunch, or can you turn on Dora the Explorer, whatever. And I'm yelling at her and telling her, get away from the door and go play, just go figure it out till I'm done. Why? Because I'm addicted. You see what I'm saying? And so I missed out. I missed out on like the first 5 years of my daughter's life, not just because of porn, but porn played a part in that. You see what I'm saying? It can, and the whole I'm not hurting anybody mentality is the mentality I had. Like, I'm not cheating on my wife. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not, this is something I do in private. Shouldn't matter to anybody else. I'm still functioning. I still got a job, yada, yada, yada. Not realizing that those scenes become a part of my mentality. It's my mental makeup now. And so whether I'm at the gym, whether I'm at work, these scenes are playing out, and they're playing out at the workplace or playing out at home. And I'm less present in the home. You know what I mean? Like, I'm staying up late so my wife and daughter go to bed. I'm getting up early so my wife and daughter aren't up. And it's because of that shame that comes with it, of starting to think this is what I am, you start to isolate yourself, right? And honestly, you'd rather be with yourself, because when you're with yourself, you can watch the porn, and this is your hit, this is your high. If you go look at any other addiction, this is the part I don't get. You go look at any other addiction and you see the manifestations of that addiction. What do crackheads do? What do alcoholics do? They start to isolate more, and they start to take more desperate measures to get back to that high. Porn addicts do the same thing. We do the exact same thing. You start, charging your card on things that you would never charge it for. You start using money you wouldn't use. It's the exact same thing. This is like the life of an addict. Insert anything in there, and you're trying to get back to what you think will fulfill or be the solution to the depth of the darkness that you're dealing with, man. And that's where I'm at, man. Like, it impacts the home in so many unseen ways that we okay it as a society. You see, because of the way some addictions can actually lead to somebody physically abusing their family. Like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, and when I get drunk, I beat my wife, I beat my kids, and I'm disorderly and all that. So we're like, alcoholism, and those addicted to alcohol, that's wrong, and we need to raise up money and funds and all that. And that's good for that. But because we don't see the silent killer of porn and how it breaks the home and it impacts the family, we actually see it as normative. We're like, oh, I get it. You struggle with porn. Most men do, and it is what it is. And if I was to tell you, yeah, well, because of my porn struggles, I'm a deadbeat father, and I don't show up. Like, I pass up on going to my daughter's recital because that would give me space and time without my wife knowing that, so I play sick so I can stay home and watch porn.
Wow.
Nobody will admit to that, and they'll say, yeah, I watch porn, but I got it under control. But I'm missing these moments I'll never be able to get back with my child, so I can watch the porn. And I'm calling in PTO to work, because often, even if my wife is okay with it, there's still some shame to it that I may feel, or some embarrassment to it I may feel, or my wife is only okay if she's watching it with me, type of thing. I've heard all these things. And so I still start figuring out how to do it without my wife, or if my wife doesn't approve, I got to hide it, secretive. I can't do it when my child's in the room. So I got to find a way to not be around my child. So I got to create the space to watch the porn. So I'm in the bathroom stall longer at work, or I get to work early and sit in the car. I mean, all these things are destructive, bro. But you don't see those, and people won't even admit to those. You know what I mean? Because that's embarrassing. If I had to sit here and look at another brother and be like, yeah, man, I skip out on my daughter's basketball games and play like I'm sick so I can watch more porn. Like, ain't nobody saying that to nobody else, man. But that's real. These are real things that not only have I experienced, but that I'm helping others through right now.
That's I like and don't like, you call it the silent killer. You know, because it's I think of, like, anytime you're watching, like a sitcom or anything like that, it's like they're just gonna, like, guys will just talk about it normally, and you never see the effects. It's just like, oh yeah, all guys watch it, you know, and even like the girlfriends on the shows are like, yeah, he watched that, you know.
Yep.
And it's like no one ever seems bothered by it. And yeah, it's like you got to go back to that first question, like, is it bad? Is it harmful? Like, what do you believe? I like how you framed it. What do you believe about it?
Right.
You know, and then it's like you talk about even the behind the scenes stuff. Like there's an organization called Fight the New Drug that they're not religiously affiliated. They are trying to, their mission is like to end porn, but not through like legal banning of it, but just by stopping the demand of it, by helping people realize like, yeah, some of these actors are coked up. So much sex trafficking is tied in behind the scenes of all of this stuff. And it's like, they're not a religious organization.
You ain't gotta be.
They're not trying to beat you with the Bible and say like, God says it's evil. It's like, it's just, I think the rest of the world is starting to catch up. Whether scientists and doctors agree if it's an addiction or not, I think the rest of the world is catching up and recognizing it is harmful. And there's very little to any benefit whatsoever to partaking of it, you know? And it's like you hear people say like, oh, well, that's how we like learn new positions and stuff when we watch it together. And it's like, bro, if y'all need to watch that to get turned on with each other, you're not actually attracted to each other.
That's the problem, man. And so from the female standpoint, that's where the female standpoint hits hard. More women are watching it more and more to try to learn from it, because if all the boys I like are into this, then I need to go figure out how to be this for them. Oh, you see what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
And so naturally it increases the viewership of the women, because they're more into this. And you know, the guy I was dating, I couldn't get him to stop watching this, so I need to watch it to figure out what they're so into, so I can be that. You know what I mean? And so yeah, bro, it's so devastating, bro. It's so devastating. It's and when I say silent killer or the silent issue, I think of like even in a house. If I see a fire in my house, I know to get out, right? But if gas is leaking, I don't hear it. I don't know, you know, and unless I have a carbon monoxide type thing that goes off, I will be dying slowly without realizing it, because it's in the house, but I don't realize it's killing me, right? I think porn is equivalent to gas leaking, right? It's in everything almost now, because it's so, you know, it's made so natural of a thing that people, I've seen people say it's a part of the maturing of men. Like this is a part of
Never
a man.
heard that one.
Yeah. It's a part of a boy becoming a man type of thing. I've heard people say it's good for men to watch porn and release because it's healthy for them to release, blah, 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 blah. Like there's all these things that they're doing to try to justify it so that they can hold on to it and it not ever become something seen or believed to be bad. That's why I always attack, what do you believe about it? Because once they start throwing out their own facts of why it's a good thing, that will explain why the action is following that, right? Like, I don't believe it's bad. I believe it's good. I believe it's healthy. And that's why I watch it. That's why I do it. So I always go back to, well, we need to find out why you believe that and where are you getting those facts from. And at all possibilities, will you watch a documentary of actual porn actors telling the truth about their experiences? Look at what happens down the road, because you're funding the business. Like, even if you're like, I don't spend money on it, you're watching, your viewership keeps it going, right? And so you are participating in keeping it going. You're like, well, I didn't know, and it doesn't matter. So I'm huge on that, man.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, we've talked about, you know, often porn isn't the problem, it's a symptom of the problem. And it even becomes to a point where it's like, I reached a point in my addiction where it wasn't even about the lust anymore. Mm-mm. It was like I really didn't even care about that. It was just like the escape for me, in a sense. Yep. And I had someone, I can't even remember who taught me this, but someone taught me the HALTS acronym. And I don't know if you'd ever heard this one.
Okay.
HALTS is many guys, they slip into watching porn when they're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed out.
Right.
Like those are the 5 of the key triggers. Right. And so for me, like lonely and stressed were like my 2 biggest triggers. Like I never get hangry. I like shut down. Like I'm like I will pass out if I don't have food if I'm hungry, right? Like I've never been hangry. My kids would get hangry, bro.
Right.
Like my 1-year-old gets so hangry. But like that's not, but for some guys that might be a trigger. But hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and stressed out are like 5 key triggers for guys that it's like, hey, when we're feeling these emotions, we run to this, which then causes the emotion of shame, which can then cause us to feel more lonely or tired and cause us to fall back into it. So what do you see like the different emotions that we feel as men that sometimes are very hard for us to identify and regulate and express as men? How do you see men dealing with those and the porn being attached to that as often an escape from those things?
Yeah, well, you have to actually, like, if you're listening to this podcast or if you're watching this, go back and do like an examination, right? I know, I've lost, you've been around me for a while. I've lost about 40, 50 pounds, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm slimming down in the face, cheekbones is coming out. Come on. And why do I bring that up? Because the HALTS method of identifying the issue to my food addiction that I had is the same thing. Hungry, you know what I'm saying? What was the A again? I forgot the angry. Yeah, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed out. I would eat through all those emotions. I would run to food to deal with those emotions. And so as I'm getting, I was 300 plus pounds just in May, bro, because I'm dealing with the lows. I'm dealing with the loneliness. I'm mad. I'm actually hungry. And so instead of when I wasn't identifying those things, I just ran to it as like, how they use the word comfort food, right? I'm hungry, so this is my comfort. I'm angry, this is my comfort. I'm lonely, this is my comfort. I'm tired, I'm stressed. Food was my comfort. Porn is no different. And those who are addicted to porn, they're addicted to a solution for those emotions. Once again, I said there's a void that you're dealing with when you have a porn addiction, and porn is your solution of choice. It's your substitution of choice. And so you're running to porn to fill the void that hunger creates, or that anger creates, or that, loneliness, tiredness, stress creates. You're running there to find comfort in those emotions. Well, first you need to recognize that you have those emotions, recognize those triggers, identify those triggers. Because that's how you could, create that accountability or that action plan of finding a different solution, And here's the scary part, like, take it from me. Be careful of your substitute, because I went from 190-pound porn addict to a 300-pound food addict by getting rid of the porn addiction, but then falling into a food addiction. You see what I'm saying? So be careful of your substitute, because, once again, if you're sick inside and porn is the symptom of it, if you don't fix the symptom, if you don't fix the sickness, you may get rid of the symptom that's porn and just find another symptom from the same sickness. I'm still trying to find a solution for the hunger, for the anger, for the loneliness, for the tiredness, for the sickness. And I beat porn, but now I'm an alcoholic. I beat alcohol, but now I'm at the stress. I beat this, but now I'm with food. I beat that, but now, you know what I mean? And so you got to be careful with the solution you find to replace, because if the solution wasn't an actual cure for the sickness inside of you, that solution is probably just another symptom of the same sickness.
Come on. I absolutely love that you said, because I was the exact same way. When I finally beat my porn addiction, I turned to food.
Yeah.
It was like, instead of running to the screen, I was running to the fridge.
Yeah.
And it's like anytime I was lonely or tired or stressed out, like I was throwing food down. And it's like, I ain't get up to 300 pounds, but it's like I gained like 30, 40 pounds, like relatively quick.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden I started like, I thought I was going to be feeling better because I wasn't watching porn anymore, but I was feeling worse. I was looking worse.
Worse, bro.
Right?
Worse.
And then like, it just like, because I never cured the problem.
Right.
I just put a Band-Aid on it.
Right, man. We just switched the addiction.
And like,
yeah.
I just switched it. And ultimately, like, it screwed my mental health so bad, like, I went back into porn addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, until I, like, dealt with the insecurities that I had inside of me.
Come on, man.
Like, I was just replacing one addiction with another.
That's it.
You know, because it was like, it was this escape from all the problems I was facing, all the stress I had, all the shame that I was feeling. I was just trying to replace it with something else. And so it could be something that seems harmless. Like it could be food. It could be video games. It could
be games. Yeah.
Like, come on. Like it can be things that are good in nature and in moderation, but we are making it an idol. Like you said, idolatry. Like we are making this thing an idol instead of filling it with like, I don't want to get too preachy, but we're two pastors, right? Like, right. Like it's like Jesus is the only one that can fill the void that you're trying to fill with whatever it is. Whatever addiction you have. Like Jesus is the one.
Yep.
That can fill that void. He is the only one.
Bro, let me catch that alley-oop real quick. Like, and so like
I'm gonna do my D Wade. I'm gonna do my D Wade. Come on.
And so what happens is like, this is the beauty of like the gospel, right? Like it doesn't look at you and say, you're not going to have a porn addiction. You're never going to, or you're not going to have these problems or these voids. And all the gospel is saying is that there's only one solution. And I actually think, now this is the silver lining, right? I actually think as I deal with more people who are dealing with all these different addictions and porn addictions and all this, I always get back to the question where I asked them, and has it fulfilled you? Like you become an addict because it actually didn't fulfill you. That's how you become an addict. Like you run to it to fulfill you, and it doesn't do it. And for whatever insane reason, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right?
Oh my goodness.
I'm watching it more and more because it gave me a temporary high that never actually filled the void. It just temporarily gave me the high. And so I go back again and again and again and again, right? And so I've actually seen more people come to Jesus because, like me, I've tried every addiction. I've tried everything else. None of it actually fulfilled. So it wasn't even like some super preachy anything. It was a brother stopping and saying, bro, that porn, that cheating on your wife, all those women you've been with, you still are lonely. You still are angry. You still are hungry. You still are, like name the whole stuff. You're still tired. Why do you keep doing it? And I just had to stop and be like, man, you're right. Why am I still doing this? I'm not any happier. I'm not any more fulfilled. That temporary moment of pleasure has passed, and I need it again and again and again. And you just get to a point where you're like, so what's the solution? There has to be a solution. Even the non-believer has to say, this can't be the way it's supposed to be, bro. This can't be it. My whole life is supposed to be sitting around watching porn, trying to until I die. That's my life. That's what I was made for, man. I ain't gotta believe in a God to realize that's not true. I know I'm not here just to be sitting in front of a computer screen 60% of my life, watching somebody else have sex. Man, come on, bro. That can't be life. And then my own personal experiences don't even fulfill me no more because they're not doing what the screen experience is doing for me. And so now I'm at strip clubs and I'm tricking and all this. Man, come on, man. Once again, let me step out of the spiritual realm. Just long before I knew Jesus, I knew what a simp was, man. I knew what a trick was. I knew what a John was long before I knew what Jesus was, right? And I'm like, bro, that can't be life. Because here's the thing, those simps or those tricks or those Johns, you know what they doing? They out trying to fulfill the same void that we fulfilling behind that screen. We talk about them. At least I ain't paying for it. At least I ain't this. At least I ain't that. Man, they doing the same thing you doing. And if you had the money to do it, you be doing it too. Period. Period. I'm gonna call it how it is, bro.
If you had the money and if you weren't afraid of the repercussions,
there you go.
Porn, because you can see the immediate consequence of that, whereas porn will silently kill you.
Yeah. You're right.
Right, and that movie, I think that's a part of it too. There,
that movie, one of the best movies for this conversation of addiction and whatnot. And it's not a Christian movie, so those of you who are watching that follow me as a pastor, don't go watch the movie if you're sensitive. All right, it's called The Purge, and in that movie,
okay, I haven't seen that. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
In that movie, they say for 24 hours. It's a dystopian society. They're like, for 24 hours, there are no consequences legally to anything you do, right? So you could go do whatever. So you got like CEOs and doctors and teachers like out committing murder and rape and all these things. Why? Because there's no consequence. So when you brought that up, Kevin, that's real. Like, if you remove the consequence, people will do exactly what they want to do, right? If you remove the shame, if you remove the guilt. And so in this society, you had these top-notch people who in any other society would never do these things because of the consequence, but because they never believe it was wrong to do it, the moment you remove the consequence, they're going to do what they believe. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, we keep creating this method of attacking porn addiction and other addictions by trying to use consequences to control behavior, right? But the moment the consequence is removed, hey, I can get away with it if so-and-so's not home, or I can get away with it if I do it this way, or if I keep this, fake account, or if I'm secretive, then they're going to do what they believe. And so we have to come up with ways to change the belief of the person that's struggling with this addiction. And I think that goes back to what we've said throughout the theme of this conversation. Do you understand the actual sickness you're dealing with? Do you actually see that you are lonely, that you are tired, that you're stressed, that you're hungry, that you're angry? Do you see these things and realize that you're trying to fill that void? If you can just see these things that you're trying to fill, let me just offer you the option of some healthier ways to do that. And even in those healthier ways, and let me make sure you understand that's not even the solution, because then you'll become the gym rat who's in the gym 8 hours a day because you're trying not to, watch porn. So now you've lost your life to being in the gym or collecting shoes, you know what I'm saying? Like video games. I'm trying to escape.
Yeah.
Let me give you one of my the things that filled porn for a while before I recognized that I was actually sick on the inside. I love sports games. I love them. And in the midst of me not feeling enough for the world, that I don't matter enough to the world, and I did hip hop, and my music's not doing enough for the world, and all of this, and I feel like I'm less than everybody around me. I'm trying to fight my porn addiction with a behavior change. So I stopped watching the porn, and now I sit around playing video games all day, creating a player that's the best player, giving my name to that created player, and dominating in the game, because it's my only way of being in control of outcomes, which is what porn actually ends up being, right? So like, I'm now addicted to the video game, wanting to win the game, and even being hot-headed when I get beat or lose or whatever, anger and all these things, because I'm trying to fulfill this insecurity inside of me that I'm not enough, right? That I'm not enough. And that's what I found out for myself in my porn addiction. Like, I'm sitting here and the girls I'm attracted to or whatever, or when I'm talking in the locker room and the guys are talking about their experiences, I'm not having them. So obviously I'm not enough. You look at my background, I've been molested. And so now I'm struggling with, why didn't I tell my parents when my cousin did that to me? And back in the 80s, in a homophobic, in my upbringing of being in the streets and in male dominated life, it was a homophobic atmosphere. And so I've never told anybody that I'd been molested at the time and never dealt with it mentally and how it affected me personally. So I'm trying to make up for what happened to me by engaging more into the things that make me more manly by the cultural standards. And porn was one of that. It was like the gateway to it, man. And so now you're dealing with a mental health issue, right? Like, man, I'm dealing with some trauma from 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I cope with the fact that the people around me are saying that what happened to me makes me this, and I'm less than, I'm insecure about, am I man enough? Am I guy enough? Am I a boy enough? And blah, 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 blah. And so now I'm running to try to control what I can control by watching the porn. And as I'm watching the porn, I'm visioning myself as that man with that chick dominating her and treating her like this. And then it just spills over into everything else, man. And before you know it, not only are you an addict, you actually believe it's right because it's the only thing that got you out of the mental darkness that you were in for the temporary times that it does it. You're like, I keep running to it. Why? Because it's only there that I feel validated as a man, because I'm still dealing with some stuff back from when I was a little kid that happened to me. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy, bro. It's just so many layers to it, man.
So many. And again, the episode right before this one, in Kicks and Minivans, we talked about shame, that shame versus guilt. And, so much of what we feel as shame as adult men is stuff that happened to us as a kid that we might not even recognize or tie to it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it could be like I was 30 years old before I started wearing glasses outside of the house because I had all this shame from getting bullied as a kid.
Yeah.
I had to have my contacts in if I went outside.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, that's so silly and so stupid and simple, but it's like that, like, I didn't even realize it, but subconsciously, like, I would not allow myself to walk out of the house in glasses for fear of being ridiculed for them, but it's like, there's deeper things than that. Like, that's just a base example, but like, there's so many deeper things like you shared that, like, it's just things that happened to us or things that we did or were done to us that impact us as a kid that maybe we just tried to bury it. We didn't actually deal with it. And now we're trying to cope with that through all these different methods. And none of them ultimately fill or heal that sickness that's inside of us.
Exactly. And I like just hearing you, man, like, so let's bring it a little bit lighter real quick, right? We've been pretty deep. Let's bring it back a little lighter just to show, let's just show some of the examples of that prove this to be true. Because somebody may be, man, these two pastor dudes, they already said they pastors, yada, yada, yada. Let's bring it back to a lighthearted thing that helps people understand it, all right? So, for example, my father came to me 1988. Son, it's time to be a man. You need to pick your teams, right? Like, it was like this Christianing. I'm 6 years old, bro. It's 1980. I will never forget this. And so my father, he's like, he's a Bears fan. He's a Notre Dame fan. He's a Chicago Bulls fan. He's a Cubs guy. Like, that's my pops, right? Like, the Chicago teams. He's from Indy, but the Chicago teams, whatever. My mom's from Chi-Town. And so, like, me, I've always been that competitive jerk a little bit anyway. And I think my father was waiting on me to be his proud son and surely he's going to pick the Bears. I'm like, no, 49ers, you know what I'm saying? And he's a Notre Dame type dude or, and I'm like, man, Michigan, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to pick any team I see that's beating my pop's team. He's a Bulls fan. I'm a Laker guy, right? And then he says, if you're going to pick them, I think it's kind of bad that it wasn't his teams, but he's like, if you're going to pick them, you better stick with them because that's what men do. So like now, it's ingrained in me. Like even in the worst, I'm like, bro, I can't. Like I'm trying to explain to my wife, I can't root for another team because I literally feel like I'm letting my dad down. I'm not a man. And you watch all the people who are like, man, I'm from this place, and that's what you gotta do. You gotta ride with this place. Even these taxis, right? I've always told you these were my grails, and I cried when my wife got them for me for Father's Day. Now watch this. It was because we were play cousins, but I call him my cousin. His name's Lee. We know each other from the sandbox, right? I'll never forget going to North Central High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. He walks in with them the first day they came out. And I never forget feeling how less than him I felt. Because me and him, when we hooped, We were equal in hooping. We were equal in the girls we chased. We were equal in rapping. We were equal in everything. And the day he walked in with those, and I went back to mama, and mama couldn't afford them, and grandma couldn't afford them. She's like, I already bought you your school shoes. And they looked so good with everything he wore. From that day on, here I am. I got these about 4 years ago, 2 to 4 years ago on Father's Day and my birthday. And I'll never forget, I cried. And my wife was like, baby, why is this so important to you? I was like, you don't understand. I've always felt less than my cousin because of these shoes. Like, that's it, right? Like, and here I am, a pastor. I understand my identity in Christ, all that stuff. But in all reality, I was still struggling without them taxis, I'm less than my cousin forever. You know what I mean? So those are just like lighthearted ways to say, no, this is real stuff. This is real stuff that you see in all other areas of our lives and the teams we care about. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I will never eat cinnamon squares because when I was little, I went to John Knisley's house. John had Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I had never seen them before. And the name brand was a name brand we couldn't afford. So when I got older, I told my wife, I will never get the non-name brand Cinnamon Toast Crunch because of my childhood. And we laugh about things like that. But those are the same things that impact us in all these other serious areas of porn addictions and the trauma that leads to all the different addictions we have. So it's a real thing across the board in many ways.
I love that story of you getting the Taxi 12s, right? Because I said my grail's the Bread 11s, right? Like those are my grails. And I've loved them since I can't even remember. I think it was in high school or something. But it was like a year and a half. Whenever Becky got them for me, right? She basically like, we were at a point in our finances. She's like, yo, you deserve some new shoes. Like, why don't you like spend X number of dollars and get yourself a couple pairs of shoes, right? Right. I was like, yo, are you for real? Like, and we could afford it. Like, we had the margin for it. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at my budget. I'm like, yo, I could get the Bread 11s and some. But like, I had this like for weeks, I just delayed.
Come on.
Because like, there was such a part of me that was like, I don't deserve those shoes.
Come on, bro.
There was such a part of me that I was like, they are my grails. I want them. I love them. They're beautiful. Like, I want them so bad. But there was a part of, like, I delayed ordering anything for weeks.
Yeah.
Because, like, I felt like I didn't deserve them. And I had spent so long not having them that it almost was like, well, what do you do when you get them?
Yep.
Like you spend all this time chasing them. Like, what do you do when you get them?
Bro, and see, right there, like, you just hit it.
Because then that took me a year. It took me a year to wear them, bro.
To wear them, bro.
It took me a year. And I wear my kicks. I don't own a single pair of kicks that I do not wear.
Mine.
I wear my kicks, right?
That's right.
It took me a year to even try them on.
Come on, man. Come on.
Not even to wear them out the house, to even put my foot in them.
To even put them on. And then watch this. So bringing it all the way back around, right? And then I started wearing my grails. And when we just started, and I'm talking about the shoes, I'm like, yeah, these is beat up now. And like I finally got the high from 1996, freshman year in North Central. I finally got the high, and I'm already. So why am I still buying shoes? Because it didn't fulfill nothing. You see what I'm saying? It didn't fulfill nothing. I finally got to the grail. I got it. So I should be good now, right? Life should be, nah, man. I look at them now and I'm like, and that's what happens, man. That's what these porn addictions, that's what any of these addictions do, man. You keep reaching to get that high. You keep reaching to get that whatever's in your mind is that you think will solve what you're feeling. You'll eventually experience it in some way, shape, or form, and then you'll realize it was a letdown. And so then you look at the thing that you thought, and you're like, man, there must be more. There must be something better. And you'll go even further. And that's where, now watch, that's where your porn turns from the screen to people and to all kinds of other demonic things, because you'll reach that high that you thought was the solution, and it won't be. And then so you gotta press further, and you gotta do more things to whatever. And that's why some of the people I've dealt with, a lot of them are like, porn's the gateway drug per se. I started off just watching porn. Now my wife's leaving me because I spent so much money at the strip club. And I thought I had the strip club thing, but then that led to prostitution. And now I'm locked up because I got caught with a prostitute, or, like it just keeps going darker and darker. And the desire increases because when you fulfilled it, it wasn't enough. And so you sit here now watching porn. You may watch porn right now and you're like, I will never, but I'm telling you, pause yourself, because you may actually become what you feel is the most sick, disgusting thing out there. You may actually become that because of how your desires will increase when the high that you reach that you thought would finish you off doesn't finish you off. It's just real.
There's something my pastor at Traders Point, Aaron Brockett, says often.
Brockett.
Is that he says, I'm going to butcher this, but essentially he says, everything God creates, Satan counterfeits.
Yep.
Everything
Real.
God creates, Satan counterfeits. And like, God doesn't get enough credit for inventing sex. Right? Like, come
That's
on.
the issue.
Like, that was his idea.
That's the
his
issue.
idea. Come on. Like,
That's the issue.
As the creator, he knows how it can be best enjoyed.
How it can be
and
fulfilled.
So it's like, as Christians, how it can be fulfilled. Like, and like, God doesn't get enough credit, and it's like God is a buzzkill and he wants to ruin your sex. No, God wants to enhance your sex life. He wants you to have
Boom.
great sex.
Boom.
With your wife.
That's
with
right.
your husband. Like, he wants
Boom.
you to have, like, he knows the screen, the strip club, the prostitute, all that stuff. He's like, that ain't gonna give you the fulfillment that
Come
a
on.
healthy sex life in your marriage would give you. Everything God creates, Satan counterfeits.
Yes.
Right?
And think
And
about
so-
it like this. Oh, go ahead. My fault. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's chasing that high that, honestly, that high might be in your bedroom right now.
And
you,
that's what
you
I'm
out
saying.
here in the living room hiding on your phone.
Talk to him, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like think about it. He created your sexual desire. Your sexual desire is in you because God placed it in you. So it's not like he doesn't know about that. Flat out. And so here's the thing. To think that your creator doesn't have a solution for your desire is foolish and prideful. And so just, bro, it's all the way back to the garden. It's like, imagine this. This is what I always tell the young fellas who haven't watched porn and they're being tempted and all this. I say, look, man, do you want to have the most amazing sex life that you could possibly have? And they're like, yeah, Pastor, how do I do that? Let your first time be with your wife, and let the only time you have sex be with your wife, and watch what happens. I've only had one person actually take me up on that. Only one person in all the people I've pastored take me up on that. And I tell you, I know it's wrong to envy, but I envy them because they don't know anything else but their experience with their spouse, and vice versa for her, right? And so like they don't have the mind of what's happened on the screen or anything else you watch. They're like, all I know is my wife intimately, and all she knows is me. So we don't think we're missing out on anything because all we know is each other, right? Majority of us come to marriage with a gazillion experiences before we've even got to the marriage. You know what I'm saying? And then so now we're in the trap of measuring against other experiences. And unfortunately, a lot of those experiences are on a screen. Period. And so God says, I don't want that for you. I'm not trying to, this is what the devil does. The devil takes what God says is protective and calls it restrictive, right? God told Adam and Eve, you can eat, watch this, you can eat from everything in the garden. Don't eat from that one thing. Because when you do, this is what will happen. So he's protecting them. He didn't even say they can't. He said, don't. You can, but don't. I'm protecting. The enemy comes along and is like, he's trying to keep you from being like him. He took what was protective and made it a restriction. Watch what happens with this sex thing. Watch what happens with this sex thing. God says, hey, I'm not saying you're not able to do it. You have free will. You could do it, but don't have sex outside of marriage because you will miss all the things I have for you. The enemy comes along and says he's trying to keep you from living your best life. He's trying to keep you from trying it before you buy it. He's trying to keep you from knowing what you're doing before you get with your partner, and he's going to embarrass you and da-da-da-da. And so we, out of a fear and shame that I may not be a good performer or I may not know what I'm doing and blah, 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 we run thinking God is restricting us from being the best sexual partners we can be for our spouses or whatever else, and our insecurities that we're not going to measure up and all this. We run to thinking that God's restricting us instead of protecting us. And we do the exact same thing Adam and Eve did. We take what God says is death, and our minds are changed. Now watch this. Let me just bring it all the way back around. At one point, Eve and Adam believed that the fruit was death. When they saw it, it was death. After a conversation with the enemy, what they believed was death, and so they behaved in a way that it was death and didn't touch it, didn't taste it. After a conversation of changing what they believe, the Bible says now Eve believed it was good for food. It was appealing to the eye and it could make one wise. So she changed what she believed about it, and then her behavior changed. Right? So in the same way, if I believe porn is death, then I won't taste it. I won't touch it. I won't, but if I don't believe that, if I believe it's good and it's appealing and, pleasing to the eye and could make me wise or whatever you want with that, then my behavior is going to follow my belief. It's the same thing from the beginning, bro. The enemy's just out here, and this is his playground, normalizing what that porn is a good thing, and here's the scientific benefits, and men need to release more often, and you don't have to wait on your wife, or you don't need to have to depend on somebody and please yourself and all this. And so in that, all the enemy is doing is sowing the seed of changing the belief so that we don't see it as death, right? And so we're acting according to that. That's what's happening. We're behaving exactly what we believe. Period.
Bro, I don't even know where to come off of that, because you nailed so many different parts of it. It comes down to do you believe it's bad? And it's there are some people that don't believe it's bad, but there are plenty of people addicted to it, and it's Paul in Romans 7, the very thing that I hate, I do, and what I don't want to do, I do, and it's so many of us okay, we do believe it's bad, but do we believe it's death?
Yeah.
And
right?
I heard someone pose a question one time. They're like, "Are you really addicted to porn?" If someone said the next time you watch porn, your wife and kids will die.
Right. You see what I'm saying? That changes everything.
I don't care how deep in it I am never watching it again.
Period.
Right?
Period.
Because the consequence is so clearly evident right there. Right? Whereas hey, you could be in this thing for years and be I don't really see a consequence. Meanwhile, your sex life sucks.
Yep.
You ain't aroused by your wife no more. Yep. You ain't even pursuing your wife no more.
Yep.
And you've been in this thing so deep for years, and you just feel well, it ain't hurting nobody. It's it ain't helping nobody.
Yeah. That's it.
Come on. And it's silently killing you. But if we could see the consequences right away, I think it would be a totally different story. And
that's with everything.
Going back to what you were saying about some people are well, you gotta, sex outside of marriage, you gotta try it before you buy it, sort of thing. I think if you really think about it, the average, I'm 33, right? The average 33-year-old dude has probably seen more naked people than any of his ancestors combined. It might have a worse sex life. It might actually have a worse sex life than all of them.
Yeah.
You might have more knowledge and experience.
Come on.
And have viewed more sex than all of your ancestors combined.
So, except for one. But his results were the same. Look at this. It's funny. I always laugh about this. It's funny how Solomon, is said to be the one who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, right? And he's everything is vain, chasing after the wind, everything is vain. The whole book is about somebody who's not fulfilled, who's tried everything and not fulfilled. Here now, look at this side of it. Solomon had like, and I don't know
about Solomon, bro.
He had like 300 wives and 700 concubines, right? Like 300 wives, 700 concubines. Not a whole lot of women.
I think it was flipped.
I think it was 700 wives,
either way,
300 concubines.
I think it was.
He had 1,000 women.
But
I just put it like that. Just 1,000 women, right? And after being with 1,000 women intimately, more than likely, all of them intimately in some way sexually, he writes a book and is like, I'm still not fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of it's in vain and none of it accomplished what I thought it would accomplish and all of this. And so, man, I hurt. You know, with all of it being said, once again, if you're watching, I'm not guilting you or shaming you or condemning you. I'm actually broken for you. I'm hurting for you, because that's the thing. You don't see the death. You may, it's the lips versus the life. You may say with your lips it's bad, but your life is saying that you don't believe that. You know, my lips say porn is bad, but my life says it's not. And so you're telling me what you actually believe, no matter what your lips say. No matter what your lips say, you're telling me what you actually believe. And so if you're dealing with a porn addiction, or if you're struggling to let go of porn, I like how you brought it up. If somebody put the consequence of my wife and daughter and said, if I watch it again, they die, I stop immediately. It's kind of like the heart attack. When somebody has a food problem and they have a heart attack, a lot of times people change immediately, like overnight. They're like, I almost lost my life and I didn't think I would lose my life from food, and now I do, so I'm done. And they change their whole lifestyle because they had a near-death experience. This is why the carbon monoxide analogy was such a good one. People aren't having near-death experiences with porn. And so no matter what they say they feel, they just don't think death is a part of that. But the death of your marriage, the death of your sex life, the death of, your raising of your children. And that's why we need more communities that are willing to speak up about the consequences. One of the biggest issues is because of the shame and guilt, men won't gather and actually talk about the issues of porn, partly because they don't want to stop. Like, hey, I see these things are happening, but the moment I admit these things are happening, I need to stop, and I don't want to stop. So I'll ignore it, and I don't want to be a part of a group of fellas who are being honest about it.
So it might be giving you that temporary fix and not that true fulfillment. And here it is too, like we don't say this as like two pastors standing up behind the pulpit trying to beat you with anything. Like we say this as two guys that genuinely have struggled with this. Like for me, I have struggled in this for years. Yeah. And like there is freedom from it. There is freedom from it. There is freedom from the shame. There is freedom not just from the symptom of it, but from the sickness.
From the sickness
of it. That's right. And we desire that for you. We desire that for your family. And like you do not need to feel shame about it, even though like the devil wants you to hide in shame because of this. Like you do not need to feel shame about this. But there is, and you need to be careful too, like Rashad said, like of treat the sickness, not just the symptom. Mm-hmm. Because like I treated the symptoms so many times, and it wasn't until I really dealt with my own insecurities and shame that I could start treating the symptoms.
That's it.
And so like, all right, we could do this all day, but addiction is not something like you don't just walk out of it overnight. Right. Like, but what are some steps? If they're listening to this still at this point, right? What are some steps that they can take? Like they want to get help. They want to heal the sickness, not just the symptom. Where did they start? What do they do?
Man, people ain't gonna like this answer. All right, so I'm just gonna tell you ahead of time. People don't like this answer. Tell the person that you're most afraid to tell. Tell the person that you're most afraid to tell. That's the start, bro. There's many ways to start, but I'm telling you, one of the most effective ways is go to the person that you're most. Because if I run to you, Kevin, and I'm like, man, I'm struggling with porn again, bro. Da, da, da. I can have that conversation. Hey, man, hold me accountable, whatever, and just kind of keep it moving. Man, if I gotta run to my wife, my 20-year-old daughter, my mama, I gotta actually face that. You see what I'm saying? I gotta deal with that. So I say, tell the person that you're most afraid to tell. Another reason I tell the person I'm most afraid to tell is because of the consequences that come with that. If I don't feel those consequences, normally I don't change because it's not bad. You see what I'm saying? Like when I told my wife about my porn addiction, and as my daughter got older and started understanding what porn was, and I saw her hurt by someone else's porn addiction type thing, like I gotta face those consequences. I gotta deal with my wife feeling however she may have felt, or deal with my daughter, feeling this way about those who watch porn, and then telling my daughter I was that person. Like I gotta feel that, and when I feel that, it's a continuous reminder of, man, this is wrong. It makes my daughter feel what? Like she's not enough. It makes my wife feel what? You see what I'm saying? So I think going to the people that you would be afraid to tell is one key thing to do. Another thing is I made it very personable. So another thing that really happened for me that really start triggering some things. If you are a believer, so the first one I'm gonna give is if you are a believer. If you are a believer, this one was weird. God never leaves nor forsakes you, right? And I had to think through that image. He's right there, and I'm doing this in front of him. And I actually use that for anything, not just porn. Like if he's right there with me, and I believe he died for my sins and gave his life for mine and all this, how can I watch this in front of him? You know what I'm saying? That hit me hard. But the one that probably completely demolished it for me is what if that's one of your boys or some random dude and that's your daughter, your son? Like that disgusted me. Like thinking about somebody pleasing themselves while watching my daughter, and knowing that if my daughter's in that position, it's probably because she has hit the most broken point of her life, and so they're actually finding pleasure in the darkest moment of my child's life, and how am I okay with that for my child? Okay, well that's somebody's child. And not even, if you flip it, that's somebody's mom, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody, you know what I mean? And so, like, once again, all those things, though, listen, all those different things I just said, telling somebody that you don't want to tell the person you don't want to tell, if you believe in the God piece, he's watching, or that's somebody's child, all those get to the core of the belief of, is it bad? That's all I'm doing with those first steps. I just want to get to the core of finding how, like, in what ways is it bad? So if you're struggling with porn, the first thing, you may find ways that I haven't even mentioned, because there's many ways. Get to the core of, is it bad? That's the first thing you want to do, because there's no point in changing anything else. Because if you change it for a person, man, my wife wants me to change it, or I got a kid now, I need to change it. Well, what happens when your kid is now 15 and out that and busy with life? You're gonna go back to what you believe. What happens when your wife or your spouse of whatever denies you sex, or you get into that argument and now go back to the house and now you're angry? You're gonna run back to what you believe. You're just gonna go back to what you believe. You know what? She's not blah blah blah. I'm gonna take care of myself then. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the very first step is it bad? And you can't move until you've gotten there to where you look at your belief about it, not your behavior. If you are in a community of people that say it's bad, that's not enough. That's not enough, because if you don't believe it, you're not always going to be with that community. And when you're not with that community and you're stressed or you're tired or you're lonely or you're angry or you're hungry, you will go do what you believe to do to fulfill those things. So the community is not enough. you have to ask yourself, is it bad? Now, if you're in a community of people who do see it as bad, ask them why. Don't be scared. Ask them, why is porn bad? They may come up with some things that we haven't touched on that may hit you. And I believe personally that God wants you. He will raise up through a song, through a movie, through a friend. He will raise somebody up that will talk to you in a way that it will pierce your heart. You just have to go seek that. Go seek why porn is bad if you don't believe it is now, and trust that he will raise somebody up that's going to pierce it in a way that me and Kevin perhaps can't come up with. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't know you personally. But it'll be that one thing where you're like, man, that pierced me to the heart. And it changes everything you believe about it. And that's where your recovery from porn addiction starts, or from any addiction for that matter.
I just want to add one caveat onto your first point. I think stating it like that, like tell the person you're most afraid to tell, is so powerful. And for most of us, like that's our wife, right? Because it's like, above all, like we don't want her to find out. Well, guess what? Like the devil don't want her to find out either.
Boom.
Because the devil wants you to be free of consequences, right? So, tell the person you're most afraid to tell, but don't only tell your wife.
Amen.
Like you should be like, I tell my wife everything, but she's not the only one that I tell everything to. Right? Because it is not fair to her to have to carry
that burden
all
by
of my
herself.
baggage
That is
by
good.
herself. Right?
That's good.
And so like tell the person you're most afraid to tell, probably your wife, but tell somebody else too. Like get some brothers around you, get some pastors around you, get some people that will walk with you through it and help you get to the heart of the issue, the sickness that's there, not just the symptom of it.
Yeah. And I think honestly, if we're being real, there's more than our wives when we think of who we're scared to tell, right? Like, yeah, I'm scared to tell my wife, sure. But also when I think of shame and guilt, because we're also going to get rid of shame and guilt when we do this, I would feel ashamed to go tell my church brothers. I would feel, so I'm like, no, whoever you're scared to tell them. Because normally that fear with the wife, obviously the relationship, but that fear comes from a relationship of disappointment. It comes from a relationship like, I'm scared to tell the brother that I've been walking in this discipleship relationship with, or I'm scared to tell these dudes I play ball with, or I'm scared to tell, like, you know what I mean? So I always look at like, those are the people who probably had the most access to your life. That's why you're scared to tell them. Because normally porn, we would tell people that we're cordial with easily. We won't tell the ones that have the most influence in our lives. And so, yeah, I agree with you, man. Definitely not just the wife. I just think whoever you're in that, like, go tell your grandma. Go tell some people, go tell some people that are going to be like, what? Like, we need to deal with that. And they love you enough to deal with it. Don't go tell your yes man. Don't go tell your echo chamber. Don't go tell the people that's already cool with it if you're trying to get done with it.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Well, bro, thank you so much for joining on this, man.
Bro.
Loved having you on. This was such a powerful conversation. Went longer than I anticipated, but like too much gold to turn it off partway through that, dude. So appreciate you hopping on with us and sharing your wisdom and experience with us.
Thank you for having me, man. Shout out to Kicks and Minivans. If you ever have me again, it'd be my pleasure. If you guys are out there and you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this podcast, please know, man, my name is Rashad Cunningham. You can look me up on many different social media avenues. And I don't say that to promote anything but a voice and a shoulder and an ear. We are here, and I don't care if you're across the United States, I can at least pick up a phone call or respond to a text message, man. So I'll send my information to KG and have him put it together. That if you're looking for somebody to talk to and you can't start with your loved one, start with us.
Yeah, absolutely. DMs at Kicks and Minivans are always open. We'll add Rashad's Facebook and contact in the show notes for this in case you want to get in touch with him too. Great brother, great friend. So absolutely loved having you on with us, man.
Right on, man. Love you, bro. And go blue. Maize and blue, baby. Let's go.
Man, Rashad already gave us the drop for this week, but I want to reiterate it, man. If that is something that is a struggle for you, the first big step you could take would be telling the person you are most scared and nervous to tell. I know that's obviously scary. It's nerve-wracking. And there might be consequences with that. You know, there's going to be a lot of hurt that comes along with that, most likely. But there is freedom on the other side of that. So do it with wisdom. Do it with grace.